As we've spoken before, the order of creation in regards to the elements is fire, water, air, earth. If you open up a new pack of traditional tarot cards, usually the pip cards or the minor arcana come automatically in that order: wands, cups, swords, and coins. This also corresponds to the four-lettered name of God in the Hebrew tradition, Yud, He, Vav, He. Understanding this order of creation as an alchemical distillation. You have fire, the closest thing to the divine in physical form. When fire is present, anything that is its opposite is automatically created. This world is a world of opposites. So fire calls forth water. Fire and water are simultaneous. Even though the fire is considered the first element, it can't exist without its opposite. When fire and water interact, they produce the third element. If you were to pour some water on fire, you'd see steam. So that third element is air. If you put some water into a pot and you put fire underneath it, it will boil and boil. And that steam takes the water out of the pot. And what is left over is what we call earth. So that's a very crude way of depicting how creation works. It's important to understand that any magical operation must follow the same steps in order to be effective. We could look at fire as being desire, water as being feeling, air as being thinking, and earth as being results. Without a desire, you don't have the fire and you don't have a spell. So desire is of utmost importance. And the stronger the desire, the stronger that force is. When trying to create something for yourself, magically speaking, if you don't have a strong desire, you don't really have a spell. And it's best to go back to the drawing board and ask, what do I really want? How can I stoke the desire? You have to have as much desire as you can possibly experience in order for you to have successful magic. Desire is the catalyst behind everything. Behind everything. It should feel almost all-encompassing when you're working your spell. You must want that thing immensely. As the desire is kindled, as the fire is kindled, remember that water is an instant byproduct of the fire. To the degree that you have the fire of desire burning, you have the degree of feeling, of accomplishment. You have the desire of wanting something and the feeling of its accomplishment to the same degree. And those two things have to work together. They interact with one another. That fire and the water, they have a relationship, a divine marriage, if you will. They come together and they interact upon one another. And that's what brings about the conjuration of the experience of what you desire. And so many people have it backwards. They say, well, I've got to visualize. I've got to visualize. I've got to visualize. If you don't have the desire and the feeling, the visualization, first and foremost, if you can do it, doesn't accomplish anything. It really doesn't. It's just a mental exercise. However, regardless of whether you think you're a good visualizer or not, if you have strong desire and a strong feeling of accomplishment interacting with one another, the creation in your mind of the thing that you want is almost automatic. There's no effort on your part necessary. If your desire is strong enough and you have that feeling of accomplishment, the conjuration of that experience is something that's simultaneous and almost something that you don't have to do much about other than notice it. Imagine somebody has a real desire to build a business. They have the desire first. They have to really want this business. They want it so much. And then they start to experience that desire and they start feeling what it would feel like to have that business brought into reality and then be a success. And as they're feeling it and desiring it, the vision of it happens. It's almost like all they have to do is write down what they see. And the planning of it and all of that is so spontaneous and so natural that they don't have to work too hard at the conjuration of it. They do have to plan how they want it to be organized, all of that. And by doing all of those things, they are distilling this desire down into the reality. And the reality of it, the manifestation of it, is a byproduct of all of that. If you think about a distillation, I always use essential oil because that's the distillation I have personal experience with. But if you have a bunch of plant material that has essential oil that you want to do a steam distillation from, you have to put all of that into a receptacle and cover it with water and then bring it to a gentle boil. And then the steam that comes up from that goes into a separator, and you separate the steam from the essential oil. The essential oil is the earth of the fire, water, air, earth. The essential oil didn't need to be created. It just needed to be extracted. And the same thing is true for the manifestation of your desires. You don't have to create the manifestation. The manifestation is a natural byproduct of your magical operation. If you want something, then it's already available to you. If you want something deeply enough, then that essential oil, if you will, is already in the plant material. And all you have to do is go through the process of the distillation in order to extract it. But you don't have to create it. It's already in there. And it's important to recognize that the earth side of this magical formula is something that happens on its own. And that's why we say it's a good idea to just forget about your spell once it's cast, because you don't want to interfere with the manifestation. The fire is your desire for the thing. Like we said, you have to really want it. And as you really want something deeply, you'll notice that the feeling of having that thing becomes very real. They happen simultaneously. And you can just close your eyes to do this. You don't need candles. You don't need talismans. You don't need invocations. You don't need anything but this formula. You could probably do it with your eyes open, but for most people, especially at the beginning, it's easier if your eyes are closed. You close your eyes and you start to feel what you want. And as you feel that desire and you allow that desire to be stoked within you, you'll notice that the water element in equal measure is also created without you having to do much. You just feel the reality of it. The only thing we have to do in this kind of an operation is keep our mind from wandering, keep our mind focused on what we're doing. Because as that desire is stoked, so is the feeling of the accomplishment stoked. And those two things start to interact, and you start feeling this activity within you. All because you've sat and thought about what you really want. That's all you had to do is sit and close your eyes and think about what you want and do your best to keep your mind focused on that one thing, and the rest of it starts to happen. And you'll notice that as you feel the desire and you feel the reality of it with your eyes closed, what you've done is you've taken yourself you've turned away from objective reality as you know it. You've turned that off. You've closed your eyes to it. You've turned away from it. And now you're creating an entirely new reality for yourself. As the fire of desire and the water of the feeling of the reality of what you want start to interact with one another, the visualization, or however you create something, happens on its own. You don't have to sweat over it. There is absolutely no willpower involved in you visualizing or you conjuring. You just turn on the movie and watch it. Your job is to keep that desire stoked. The other elements take care of themselves. As you start to watch this play out in your mind and you start to see as well as feel the reality of what you want, as you get a sense of that, when you're done with that session and you open your eyes, it's almost surprising that the manifestation isn't right before your eyes because it was so real. It felt so real to you. That's a good spell, because then it is just a matter of time. And it usually happens when you're not looking for it, when you've forgotten about it, when you least expect it, you turn away from it, you forget that you ever did it. It'll come out of nowhere. absolutely out of nowhere. The earth element takes care of itself as well. So the only element you're ultimately responsible for is the desire. But when you're casting a spell, it's not just, oh, I really want it, and that's all. No, you're closing your eyes and you are focusing on that desire. You're focusing on that desire. You are not distracted from that desire. And you feel it, and you feel it, and you feel it getting stronger and stronger within you. And as it gets stronger within you, you notice the second element of water. You feel the reality of it. And as you notice that happening, you notice the creation of the experience of it within your mind. It flashes across your mind as an inspiration, rather than having to work hard at creating an image of what you want. And that's when you know you're on the right track. Think of any great song. If you talk to that songwriter, very frequently they'll say, it happened super fast. I didn't have to work very hard at it, and I don't really feel like I wrote it. I feel like it was written through a depiction of what we're talking about. They probably had the desire to have this song, and all they had to do was focus on the desire, and the rest of it happened through them. They didn't have to work the other three elements. It all just happened through them. But they had the desire, and they had to sit down and listen. Sometimes when I'm casting a really good spell, it doesn't happen with me sitting down in a trance in the traditional sense. Sometimes the easiest way for me to relax and get into that trance is by walking. I'll go out and take a walk. I'll usually put my headphones on and listen to some music or something so that people think I'm listening to a podcast and I don't have to get into a conversation with my neighbors or whatever. I'll just go out and maybe take the dogs for a walk. And I'll walk and I'll walk and I'll walk. And as I'm walking, I can really focus on what I'm feeling, what I'm desiring, what I want. And then by the time I get home from that walk, I can put it out of my mind. And lo and behold, that thing always will manifest, sometimes in the most unusual ways that I didn't understand. That's the meaning of that phrase from the Bible, my ways are beyond finding out. God isn't an entity outside. God is the power in us to create what we desire. The manifestation of your desire very frequently will come in ways that your conscious mind is not capable of understanding. Something similar in the Bible is, I have weapons ye know not of. Meaning you don't even know what you're capable of when you work like this. When you allow the desire of your heart to take the reins, you have no idea what can happen. But we get so hypnotized by the world into thinking that our desires are not important. We talk ourselves out of even feeling desire. If there is a God, it's the desire of your heart. Remember, the ancients believed that fire was the closest thing to the divine in the physical world. And desire is an inner fire. So the closest thing that you're ever going to find to God is what you desire with your heart. Now, there are differences between the desires of your heart and ego lusts, and it takes a little bit of practice to discern between the two. But after a while, it's really obvious. A true desire of your heart is not a fix. It's not an addictive fix. It's something that feels part of you. It's a part of your soul. The desire for a relationship, the desire for furniture in your home, that's not necessarily an ego lust. It could be, but you know the difference. Very frequently, if you get something close to what you desire from the ego, it doesn't satisfy you but for a second. Whereas a desire of your heart feels satisfying. When it manifests, all that does is reinforce the desire that was already in there. For instance, the business. Once the business manifests, it's not that your desire's over. Your desire to expand that business is there, and your desire to succeed in that business is there. Perhaps your desire to serve customers is there, and it keeps going and going. It's self-perpetuating. And the same thing could be with the furniture of your new home. You know that it was a desire of your heart. Once the furniture comes, you love it. Every time you sit, you're like, oh, I love this. It's so beautiful in here. I love my home. That's a desire of your heart. The bottom line is that what you are responsible for in successful spellcasting is the fire element, is the desire. The rest of it is a logical chain of events that occurs as the result of that desire being experienced and being fostered and stoked. It's important to remember that a lot of times when we have a spellcasting experience, we are so focused on things like visualization or what kind of candles I'm using or did I make the talisman right, that we don't understand that those things are there to focus the mind on the desire at hand. And if they're not serving to focus, they're distractions. They don't help. If you're not having the success that you want in your magic, get rid of all the tools for a minute and do it in your mind. Either sit, or like I do, sometimes go take a walk, turn off the external world and focus on what you really want and allow what you really want to engulf you, to be the only thing you experience. Really lean into that desire and allow that desire to overtake you. And notice when you do that, what happens next. You get a sense of the reality of this thing. It happens automatically. It happens simultaneously. It happens without effort on your part. Those two forces within you that interact bring you a conjuration of an internal experience of what it is that you want. That's an excellent spell. I encourage you to work with that. Like I said, only one element, and that's fire, because all the other elements are contained within that. And the sequence necessary for creation is contained within that fire and knows what it's doing all by itself. Once we understand that and we lean into this type of a method of spellcasting, focusing on our desire and shutting out the outside world, allowing ourselves to experience those four elements to occur as a result of focusing on that desire, we realize that the reason why we have a problem receiving the benefits or the results that we want is because we don't want the thing enough. And that frequently comes from doing a spell based on something we think we ought to do or should do, rather than asking ourselves, what do I really want? Of course, then you look at your sphere of influence and all of that. But for right now, we're going to put that on the back burner and just ask ourselves, what do we want? Let's let that desire be our guide. Understanding that desire is holy. And that was put there by the infinite to be fulfilled. And there's no desire that we truly want with our heart that is insignificant. When I talk to people helping them with their spells, I ask, well, what do you really want? They are so sheepish about it. They feel almost embarrassed. You don't have to feel bad about your desire. Your desire is your desire. Own it. Lean into it. If that's what you want, that's what you want. Don't feel bad about it. Feel good about it. It's not like you're desiring to hurt somebody. The desire to hurt somebody is not a true desire of the heart. That's where a lot of people misunderstand. They think, I really want that person to get their just desserts. I really want that person to feel bad. But it's an ego lust. Because once they get what they really deserve, you're not going to be all that satisfied. You think you will be, and you might be for a second. But it's not them being hurt that you want. You may have a righteous desire of your heart for justice. You may have a righteous desire of your heart for equilibrium, for being safe. But it's not the desire for them to be harmed that is the true desire. There's another desire behind that that is the righteous desire of your heart. But anyway, regardless of all of that, if you truly desire it with your heart, nobody can say no to you. It's between you and the infinite. You two are going to work together to make that thing come about, and you have every right to it. You're entitled to it. You're entitled to the manifestations of your desires. That is your birthright. We don't believe that, and so then we never go for those. And so when we do our spells, we're not really doing spells for the things we truly want. We're doing spells for things we think we should have. And then we wonder why the magic doesn't work. That's why. If you want it, lean into the desire and allow your spell to be centered around desire. There is more to it than just wanting it, but you have to learn how to have a magical operation based on the wanting it, being focused on that desire to the exclusion of everything else, and then watch as that desire calls forth the feeling of its accomplishment. Watch as those two elements of fire and water interact and call forth the conjuration of what you want. And then notice as you go about your days, as you let go of what you just did, that the manifestation of your desire comes like a thief in the night, or like Joseph Murphy used to say, comes like toast popping out of a toaster when you least expect it, and frequently in ways that are so different than anything you knew was even possible. Sometimes it's very mundane, but sometimes it's not, and you never know. Your job is to focus your mind on the desire and keep it there and notice as the rest of those elements take shape. It's more than just if I want it badly enough, I'll get it. No, it's not always the case. Sometimes it is. But if you want it badly enough, then you can focus on that desire and watch as that unlocks the water element and then the air element and then the earth element finally. It's a wonderful thing to understand. You don't need anything complicated. Just know what you desire and then allow that formula to work through you. Fire, water, air, earth, desire, feeling, conjuration, manifestation. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time, blessed be.